T-minus 23 hours to go here at Silverstone. Yeah, it's quite interesting what you say about the wind buffeting, because also when these are stripped out, there is no soundproofing.
No.
So the drivers are going to be having their eardrums rattled to pieces over the next 23 hours. But great, this is a great little battle here. This is between ITC1 and Bianco Auto Developments. This is for 14th position. It looks like Bianco are definitely not letting go of what is 14th, and then they've got a bit of a gap between themselves, between ITC and then also to Écurie Celtique with Clapham North, who are about 7.9 seconds up the road.
Yeah, Paul Clark go for the inside line now. Paul Donkin has to give him the room, unless in a situation when you can carry the speed into the corner, which he's going to try and do. But Plant up the inside. Plant is the team boss of Bianco Auto Developments. He regularly prepares a phalanx of Alfa Romeo car at 156s in the Alfa Romeo Championship, but he's now taken time out to repair this car for the Citroen C1. So now looking this way, and that's trying to get back past his Donkin. Just behind him is the 449 Graham Davidson, but up the inside of them goes the 343, I think that was. 343, which is... It might have been 342 actually. Who was the car behind?
342 is SF Racing.
Sorry, my apologies. It might have been Emax Motorsport actually that was behind them battling. So 344 Emax Motorsport, 345. And 345, that is the car that's been driven by Jake Little, James Little, Glenn Finn and Stuart Ratcliffe in that battle as they go through. We've also got the 393 in there too as well. 393 is the car of the team which is Sussex Road and Race. That's the Josh Fulbrook, Kevin Fulbrook, Andrew Bailey and Keith Isett car, and that's also in that mix as well. Also Majestic Motorsport I think are in there too, as are I think maybe MSA Old Hat Motorsport, who started on the front row of the grid and they've dropped away back down to 20th place in an hour's worth of racing as Bianco Auto Developments have got through. But already not only are the windscreen wipers coming on, but so the lights.
We've had a breach of refueling regulations. That is for the 423 again. So as it looks like we've had another car come into the pits. So it could be a driver change. So 423, that's checkered past again, having to now have a stop-go penalty for breach of refueling regulations.
It hasn't been their hour, has it? Because they've been called in twice now for what has been mechanical problems which have forced them in to try and fix them. Now they've had a problem with their breach of refueling regulations. So I think they're going to find themselves pretty much right at the back of the field, unfortunately, as the first few fuel stops are starting in earnest now.
Yes, so with 35 litres being decimated by those behind the wheel at the moment, and that is the 358 that is currently in the pits. That is the Red Nicker team of John Leopold, Harry Nerger and Ken Davies in that particular vehicle.
And that car started back in 95th position. So whereabouts? So they've gone up to 78th already. So they've made some great progress up the order. That includes the photographers. You can see, for anyone that knows in motorsport circles, the initials JEP. That, of course, is Jacob Eagry. Jacob Eagry, photographer, who is one of the I even say world-renowned photographers, because of course he's got a whole fleet of photographers that work underneath him, including himself, who still takes snapshots now and then. But he does a lot of BTCC work and amongst other things.
He's also been at the Michelin Le Mans Cup quite recently as well for its opening round at Le Castellet. In France, so Jacob does some great work. It's always a pleasure to see whenever I see his sticker in the paddock, or whenever I see him, it's always good to see a guy, a very nice down-to-earth guy, and good to see that he's here in the thick of things, so to speak, as the wipers are now starting to come on a bit more. Scott, for the first time, I'm going to officially say this, we have rain hitting our commentary box window here towards the start-finish straight heading on to Cops.
Yes, we do. It is an incredible sight to see. Of course, it's not the first time these guys would have raced in the rain, because for those who don't know this championship, they do run more sort of sprint events in terms of sort of shorter race lengths of something like 2 or 3 hours, if you want to call them a sprint. But of course, they do other ones. They'll be doing another one in Anglesey. They'll be doing a 24-hour race, and also, as we said as well, over at Spa, they'll be joining a load of the European teams that race these cars on the continent as well. But I do still believe that we've got, I believe, the 99 car, unless it's unfortunately out of the. I hate to say if it's out of the race already, because of course it's been in the pit lane.
Well yeah, I mean it's been pretty much in. It's the 373 is missing its right front corner, The 373 there is
That's
Midway Motorsport with Lee Smart, Nigel Rata, Kevin Hancock and Chris Wilson. That's the quartet behind that particular endeavour.
And Nigel Rata started that car, so obviously he's taken a chunk out of the front bumper. In the pit lanes, the 467. 467 in the order is, that's the Cat DT team with Colin Hode, David Outstad, Phil Marsh and Nick Fashy. That's sponsored by Cat Driver Training. As just the drivers having a quick conversation to let them know either how the brakes are doing, how the tyres are doing, how the circuit is as well. It's all important information to give the driver. We have to turn across because these guys won't have any pit-to-car radio. All they can do is communicate. Whenever they make their scheduled pit stops, all they can do is communicate to the driver exactly how the tyres feel, the brakes feel, how the suspension feels, how the car handles in the corners, whether there's any problems at all, anything to do with the weather conditions, if there's anything on the circuit in terms of debris or oil or fluid or anything else. Those are the key things they have to try and communicate in that period before the driver when the driver comes into the pit lane, gets out, and the new driver gets in whilst they're waiting for the car to be worked on, particularly in terms of refuelling. It'll solely just be, for the most part, refuelling that they'll do in the pit lane. They won't really make anything like terms of tyre changes or even complete sort of brake pattern, brake disc changes for quite a long time into the race, because they won't need to do so, but in many cases they'll be doing the best they can.
Well, as the 412, the young and old entry with, I'm just wondering who's behind the wheel of that. That gets back underway coming out of the garage.
Now that was started, if I look back on the images I took of the starting drivers, 412 was started by Adam Davey in that team. So Adam Davey, we believe, is at the wheel of that car. But of course what they do is, you might see some of the drivers at the end of the pit lane, they might just go ahead, they'll stop at the end of the pit lane, and if you catch them, they'll try and get their arm out. I've just seen also, just behind the circuit, behind the grandstands, we've got a car coming back on a low loader, and that's the 416 that's had a problem.
That's the C1 USA. That's John Meyer, Joel Cairns and Amy Dilks, who have come over from stateside to compete here. So for those wanting to know about the calendar for 2019, you can go to c1racing.club. Because the next round of the championship will be held on the 25th and the 26th of May. It's the 4-hour at Anglesey before Pembrey, June 8th and 9th, which is a double six, so it's 12 hours in total. July 28th, they head to Mallory Park for the sprints. And it's the 3-hour at Snetterton 300 on August 11th. Then it's the next 24 hours at Anglesey International between the 6th and the 8th of September. Croft will host a 3-hour on September 21st before the final 24-hour race of the season, which is at the iconic Spa-Francorchamps between the 25th and the 27th of October, which the entries open at 8 p.m. on the 2nd of June this year. And then the last race of the season will be the 2-hour at Brands Hatch on November 9th and 10th. There's also, you can head to c1racing.club to find out about the invitational sprint races in Scotland, the invitational endurance races, which has the likes of Magny-Cours. Well, Magny-Cours was last week. You've got Portimao in Portugal, Estoril, Zandvoort and Metet in Belgium. So quite a whole host of tracks that anyone that wants to get a C1 up to racing spec can go to c1racing.club to find out further information about the news, the forums and also the regulations for the championship as well.
Well, what's interesting, just looking at the gaps now, is that the lead gap has been pulled out to 1.5 seconds now between Rob Baker in the Aero Motorsport cars. The car in the gravel trap, and that is the 420, and that is the rather sort of intriguingly named Cockwomble team. And that's car which has... Well, it was started by Scott Lawrence at the wheel of that car. That car has got itself well and truly stuck in the kitty litter, but good job by our fantastic British marshals to get that car back out. It'll try and track its way through, which it is, so just trying to work its way back on the circuit. And it's actually facing the wrong way somehow. And that's exiting, by the looks of things, Maggots, Beckett's going the entry, I think, to Maggots and Beckett. So that car's obviously had a big tag slapper and gone into the gravel the wrong way around as the 342 goes around the outside. The 342, that is the car of SF Racing with Sean Fleming, Gary Wager and John Wall. So a spin there for the number 420 team as they get themselves back onto the road with a bit of a drama.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it looked like there might have been a little bit of scraping along the side of that particular vehicle as well. So whether there may have been a slightest amount of contact, might have just set the car off into the kitty litter. Lotus AMG says, is that a friggin' Rusty's livery? Yes, we have Rusty's Racing here. Obviously no Lightning McQueen in that particular one. So it's quite interesting.
Lucian Poper asks, can you enter in a Peugeot 107? I understand where the question is coming from, because of course this car is the same car, of course, had been the Citroen C1, the Peugeot 108 and the Toyota Aygo. Unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, it's only the Citroen C1 that's allowed, so you have to watch for that.
Yes, it was a conglomeration, well, it's a cooperation between Toyota Motor Company and PSA, who own both Peugeot, Citroen and now Vauxhall. And it was part of the B0 project, and yeah, no, it's Citroen C1s only, I'm afraid. It's the 448. Well, there we go. There's the 344 with the Rusty's Racing livery from Lightning McQueen. Ka-chow! Sorry, I just had to.
And that's a 6-driver team with Terry Buckell, and we've got Matt Dickens, Hugh Buckley, Phil Buckley, Martin O'Brien and Martin Thomas that will have that car. The windscreen wipers are firmly going 10 to the dozen already with some of these drivers, because they feel that the circuit is starting to get a little bit slick out there with the sort of light rain that's falling here on the circuit. So as they turn into the left hand, there is the Rusty's car. He's battling over the 367. That's actually the guys battling for 4th, 5th and 6th, as Vikings now lost 3rd place. We're just seeing them behind them. So Vikings been caught by PrepTech UK and AB Motorsports. That's a change of position for them as they come through the right-hander. So now into 3rd place goes the PrepTech car. That's there with Matt Turnbull at the wheel now through car 367. Into the pit lane now comes the Rusty's car. 344 was at the wheel of that car, and the starting driver for 344 was, if I bring it up on the screen here to have a quick look, 344 was Terry Buckle. I think so. Terry Buckle was the driver that started the Rusty's car as he heads down pit lane. We've also got a car that's having a stop and go penalty by the looks of it as well.
Oh, 420, a 3-lap penalty for marshal assistance.
Well,
I mean that's pretty okay. Well,
let's not question decisions by the.
I'm not questioning. No, I'm not questioning.
But I think that they might explain that if they hadn't got the assistance, then they wouldn't have got the car out. The only thing he would have been able to get it out was effectively would have been if he got out and pushed it himself. But apart from that, he I'm sure will argue that if he hadn't had the assistance, he wouldn't have been able to get out the gravel trap. But then again, of course, the rules are the rules. So of course, I'm sure they'll go to the clerk of the course and they'll decide in due course what their penalty is going to be, and what they decide to hand out. Duckworks asking what happened to the C1 USA team. Well, sadly, just a few minutes ago, we saw that the car was on the back of a low loader just outside the circuit, going behind the pit straight grandstands. The car that's in the pits again is, I think, once again the 423, the Checker Pass car. That's being held in the pit lane for an awful long time. So more dramas for Checker Pass. Remember again as well, they started up in, where did they start in the field? In 18th place on the grid.
Well, Scott, I think at the end of the day, there's still 22 hours and 46 minutes left to go. So there's still plenty of time. I mean,
there is, but of course, they've lost an awful lot of time in the beginning already. In the first hour and 15 minutes, they've tumbled down to, where are they now at the moment? Down to 94th, and they're already at the moment
4 laps off the leaders.
4 laps off the lead. So that's that. Just a question from Greasy Simo Gaming. Can any model of the C1 be used? I believe it's only the first generation C1
it is
at the moment that can be used in the C1 Racing Club.
I mean, the thing is that very good question there, Greasy Simo Gaming. That when we did the Citroen, when we had the Citroen C1 24 hours at Rockingham, 53 cars, the safety car was a second generation Citroen C1, so it looks like it was a C3 Aircross that is our safety car. As the weather coming into Cops is looking, well, Scott, the rain is hitting hard now. This is where we're going to find that these drivers are really going to have to watch the track limits, but also these curbs are going to be incredibly greasy as the rain continues to fall harder here at Silverstone. Yeah,
this is going to be the true test. Of course, remember again, we're strict. These guys don't have to change tyres when it gets to wet conditions. They stay on exactly the same tyre. It's effectively an all-weather tyre which Nankang uses. Meanwhile, we look at the battle here, which is still going on between PrepTech and also the number 394 of Ollie Allwood in the in the All Gears backed AB Motorsport car. They're still chasing hard the car in third place now, which is Team Viking, which is in that's now back up to third place again now. Silver Lake Racing have, where have they dropped to? They've dropped behind by about 13 seconds. In fact, they're just flashing the top of the shot, but now going around the outside of a couple of lapped cars. They're going around the 323. Which is the steady 23 car they've gone through. So the main battle going through is the moment happening between second, third and fourth, as I think we've just had the Area Motorsport car that's dropped, and that's just a transponder problem, that's now dropped out, unless they must be in the, are they in the pit lane? Because something's happened to the Area Motorsport car. Well,
they've dropped 6 places, so that might be their first pit stop.
Well, it could be, but the thing is, but if it was a first pit stop, it would have a little gear on the TSR timing screen. So, is that? Let's not preempt it until we get some facts. No. But is there a potential problem for the Area Motorsport car? They fought the race leader up until that point, or is that simply a pit stop for them because they're dropping down the order quite substantially? So whether we can get some eyes on them at some point around the circuit, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, so either that's a transponder problem, or they really have hit strife because they're tumbling down the timing screen towards the bottom of the top 20. So that now means that Eastgate Automotive Racing car number 318, which started 5th on the grid with David Drinkwater at the wheel, currently still leads the way. It's the 419 in second place of Viking Racing. 419, they started in 22nd place on the grid. And that has Nick Grindrod at the wheel of that, so he's made up 20 positions in a space of, what, an hour and 15 minutes, which is incredible to see, but particularly in these cars. Prep Tech UK in third place, car number 367, which started 11th place with Matt Turnbull at the wheel. 4th place now for AB Motorsport 394, which started in 6th on the grid with Oliver Allwood at the wheel. And then we've got 5th place, who are, I believe, one of the two 24-hour race winners, Team Celavi. And Team Celavi started on pole position. That's Paul Dickinson at the wheel of that car. Now it's sitting in 5th position. But yeah, the worry is, though, is that, of course, we've now seen they've dropped outside the top 20 now. Has something happened to Area Motorsport? Because as we say, if you can follow the TSL timing screen, if you go onto tsl-timing.com.
Yeah, I mean the funny thing is that I mean I know our man in the pit stand, Blake, might need to head over to them to see if we can find out what's going on. I know he's down there at the moment. But yeah, it's going to be quite interesting what has actually happened, because they were battling tooth and nail with Eastgate Automotive for quite a duration. So, you know, it's going to be quite interesting to see, as the wipers are definitely on full speed here at Silverstone as the rain is continuing to intensify. We were expecting rain at around about 6 o'clock this afternoon. It started coming in dribs and drabs, but now the rain is coming down heavier than maybe a lot of teams might have anticipated. But I think with any 24-hour race, tracks these days do sometimes have their own microclimate, as the treble 3 with the brightly coloured Think lettering, that is the Toll Racing entry. As some of the drivers, that's the 359 coming into shot. That is a Seto Motorsport, with one of the drivers of that sextet is Jim Edwards, father of Jade Edwards, who's currently competing in the UK Clio Cup this weekend at Donington Park. And obviously many congratulations to Jim, as I hear that Chloe has just had a baby. So Jade is a niece and Jim is a granddad, so another generation of Edwards could possibly... Oh, we've had one go off, and that is coming off of the final corner and is very, very slow indeed. That looks to be one of the Atomic Racing cars, and we've had another penalty, a 3-lap penalty for the 384 for assistance. And that Atomic Racing car has come to a halt, and that is just... I think that's just off our commentary position, so yellow flags coming through the final corner, so no overtaking, otherwise drivers will be penalised. So that's one of the Atomic Racing cars that has come to a very, very abrupt halt, so whether they've had an issue there. So that would have been coming through Woodcote and heading towards Copse. Barless, thank you very much for Yes, there is a round at Brands Hatch later on in the year.
Hello, I'm here in the pit lane with esports champion Brendan Lee. Brendan, it's sort of a different world for you, 24-hour race. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Obviously, it's 24 hours of constant battling with cars, and it's just a lot of fun.
You made your racing debut in the Formula Fords last week. Is there anything you learnt from there which you'll be able to sort of bring into this, do you think?
I think Formula Fords obviously promote close racing, good battling, and obviously this is what this series defines, really, isn't it? Close racing, good battling, and really the only difference from Formula Ford to this in terms of racecraft is just that this goes on for 24 hours, whereas the Formula Ford race goes for 15 minutes.
When's your first stint going to be in the car, Brendan?
Sorry?
When's your first stint going to be in the car?
We've already gone out for a stint, but unfortunately we had contact with another car who turned in on us at Stowe. So at the moment, different drivers out, and then I'll go out next stint.
Thank you very much, and good luck for the race, Brendan.
Thank you very much.
Dan Blake there, our man in the pit lane at the moment. He's part of our four-man commentary team. We'll be joined by Anthony Jordan tomorrow morning. So, Scott, very interesting what Brendan had to say there in the fact that there was contact where someone turned in as the Atomic Racing car, which looks to be the 364. That is the team of David Watson, William Moore, Austin Greenaway and John Cutmore that have unfortunately been pulled to the side of the racetrack just off the gravel there. But very interesting how Brendan was saying, well, yes, it's only 15 minutes in Formula Ford. We're here for 24 hours.
Yeah, that's very true, isn't it?
But still, at the moment, the lead at the moment between Eastgate Automotive over Viking is now, well, that was 1.2 the last time I saw. Nick Reinrod has got that down to 0.142, and they took over 1.1 seconds out of Eastgate Automotive on the last lap, on lap number 26. That's impressive pace from Nick Reinrod, who will know this track very, very well indeed.
It does look to me as if the rain has started to dissipate a little bit in terms of when it was falling before, so it doesn't look as hard as it was earlier on, but even so there are now still substantially dry patches. There's a dry line which has been developed here throughout this sort of stint as the rain starts to fall, so it's quite interesting that these guys are really sort of sticking to one line, but of course they're using as much of the track as they can to try and make these moves as they go sort of 2 and 3 abreast down the hanging straight as we see them right now. So it looks to me as if they're trying to clear the track up as much as they can in these slightly damp conditions, but down the back straight towards Stowe Corner they go. This is the scraps going on. This is actually for second, third and fourth now, and they're doing a 3 abreast here as Steve Reich gets down the outside of the 318 and almost chops that's for the lead, in fact, actually, my point. That's for the lead, so that's a change for the lead.
Vikings taking it. Good spot there, Scott. But look at the train behind. I mean, you've got the 419 of Viking now taking the lead from Eastgate Automotive. Behind them, you've got AB Motorsport, who are trying to go past Preptech, and they've made the move as we've got the Recovery Land Rover out on the circuit at the moment. So it looks like Preptech might be overtaken by AB Motorsport, as the 364 being attended to by the Recovery Land Rover just off the main start-finish straight here. So that was a very, very interesting battle. It's great that the cameras caught up with it at that particular time. And Mark Waller on YouTube says they race 2 CVs there. Yes, they do. They also race Fun Cup. C1s would have no trouble with Radillon.
Well, they don't actually, because of course they do race in the spot with their own spot 24 hours towards the end of the year, and as they will be doing again this year as well. It'll be the third of the 3 24-hour races on the C1 Racing Club category. So John Monroe just talking about Brendan Lee that we saw being interviewed by Dan Blake. So great to see Brendan getting out on the circuit. He did very well on his Formula 4 debut. He did, as we talked earlier on, his first race he finished 4th on the road, but he was demoted to 10th after he got a penalty for a little bit of contact he had with somebody. But he qualified 5th as well in the actual qualifying session on Saturday morning. And then the 2 races he had on Sunday, the first one, he had some contact. He was involved in a multiple car incident, which sadly took him out of race 2. The mechanics at Kevin Mills Racing got his Spectrum chassis back to full strength, but then some problems getting the car away from the grid for the final race of the weekend. Sadly saw him drop out. And but even so, I believe he'll be back out for further races throughout the season. I don't know if he's going to be at the next rounds of National Formula Fords at Alton Park, but we'll keep a nice progress there. But that's then, this is now, of course, and Brendan, of course, with his team trying to make their way back up through the order now. Whereabouts do they currently sit in the timings at the moment? I'm sure a little bit down the order. Whereabouts are they now?
306 now up into 96th position at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering who's going to be behind the wheel, whether they've got Miguel Faisca from Portugal, whether he might be behind the wheel of that car. They've also got a guy by the name of Richard Roberts in that team. Not really heard of that guy before, to be honest.
No, I haven't. No, I think we'll have to go and investigate down there a little bit to see who it is. There's the recovery truck, which is picking up the 364 Atomic Racing car. So
Yes,
that car.
Oh, that right front wheel is locked solid. Maybe that's a brake issue.
Oh no, I think it might be that, or because the fact that it's he's trying to keep the car slowed down, because obviously with the rain that's been falling, any sort of moisture gets onto the grass, it makes it very slick. So of course it might be possibly him trying to keep the brakes and to keep the car a little bit slow, so it doesn't start running into the back of the recovery
look,
track.
That's also missing its rear bumper as well there, Scott. So
Yeah.
these rear bumpers on these Citroen C1s, very, very fragile. And to be honest with you, I don't think they're going to make too much of an odds about it. As the sister car, the 363, is still battling away. It's against the 464 at the moment. So 363, 33rd position at the moment. They're actually battling for around about 30th place now. So that's to complete the top 30 there, Scott.
Yeah, that'll be for position. They're in the mix with the 387 GMP Development stand-up to cancer car. There's two of those cars in the field, one of which has been driven by one of our good friends in Conwich, Mark Werrell. He's not in that car yet. I believe he's out third for the third stint in that car.
I think he said he needed a kit before he went to get in the car. That's great preparation, Mark. Just get up a bit sleepy-eyed, get the sleeping dust from the middle of your eyes, and then just go, right, I'm ready.
Absolutely. So as the race continues on, we're coming up now to the 90-minute mark in this Distrigo C1 Racing Club 24-hour race here at Silverstone. Looking at the front of the field, we can show you who is where at this point in time as we look up the field. So with about almost an hour and a half gone, it is now 419 Viking, with Nick Grindrod at the wheel of that car. Remember, he started all the way back in number 419. He started all the way back in 22nd place with Nick Grindrod at the wheel. He now heads into the lead. Second place now for car number 318, which is Eastgate Automotive Racing, that was in second place and in the lead for quite a while. Then in third place we've got AB Motorsport with Oliver Allwood at the wheel of that car. In fourth place is the 367 of PrepTech UK with Matt Turnbull at the wheel. In fifth place we've got 398 Silver Lake Racing, a little bit further away from where they'd like to be, with Gary Preble at the wheel of that car. In sixth place is Team Celavi, who's one of last year's 24-hour race winners at Rockingham, and that currently has Paul Dickinson at the wheel of that car. Seventh place for car 390 ASR with Alex Sedgwick, who made his debut recently in the Wheeler NASCAR Euro Series, as did a fellow driver in that team, Callum Cripps. And they currently sit in seventh place. In eighth place is number 376, which is Citroen Racing, and that is Adam Burgess at the wheel of that. I thought for a second we saw Marshall flossing there in the pit lane, but that's interesting to see. Anyway, we've got ninth place for Cracker Motorsport 411 with Stuart Lynn at the wheel, and rounding out the top 10 is number 385, which is Circuit Pro. They started 40th on the road, and that has got Simon Harrison at the wheel. Simon Harrison, a former national saloon car champion, and also has been a former BTCC racer. And fun fact, he's actually sharing that car this weekend with his old Peugeot teammate from the British Touring Cars in 1995, a certain Patrick Watts. So Patrick Watts, a legend of the British Touring Cars in the Super Touring era, is reunited with his old Peugeot teammate from 1995, and those two are sharing that car. They're in car number 385, and they're sharing that car with Timothy Hartland. So a bit of BTCC alumni on the grid at the moment, in 10th position on the road. 11th place is the Gala Performance with Amigo Motorsport car number 380. And that starts in 28th on the grid with Christian England. Now, he is the current United Autosports LMP3 racer, Christian England, so good to see him stepping out for something that's been quite rapid rear-wheel drive V8 powered LMP3 car, something with a little bit less power and front-wheel drive, and quite a lot smaller. So
we've also had a stop-go penalty issued for the 400, overtaking under yellows, as the 481 of Flying Haggis Racing has just entered the pits. So yeah, very to hear that we've got a BTCC Peugeot reunion with Patrick Watts.
Now then, we asked the question, where's Area Motorsport disappeared to? I'm afraid the answer to that question is, I've just seen their car disappear behind the grandstand on the back of a low loader. So the early race leaders, I should say, Area Motorsport with Rob Baker at the wheel of that car, is sadly having to make its way back to the pit lane. Whether or not that car will get back out again, I'm not 100%, or whether that car is sadly now out of the race, we'll have to wait and see. But
as we see, oh, nice ding-dong battle here between 374 and 448 of Team Rockingham there. Now, is that for position? That is. So that is the 374 of Midway Motorsport with Team Rockingham there. But yeah, lovely to see that we've got current, previous and also past BTCC alumni here at the Silverstone Citroen C1 24 hours, celebrating the centenary of Citroen, which was founded, funny enough, last month, 100 years ago, by André Gustave Citroën, based out of Saint-Ouen, which is the headquarters. So yeah, to see these cars, you know, the Team Rockingham have now got the jump. They've kept ahead of Midway Motorsport for 45th position on the circuit. And it looks like there's also one trying to factor in here. Now, could that be Pink Tiger Racing now closing on Midway Motorsport? And we've had another fastest lap of the race, and the team setting it is Eastgate Automotive, who are back in the lead of the race past Viking. They've just done a 3-minute 3.933, gap less than a tenth of a second between the 318 and the 419, as you see Bianco Auto Developments up into 13th position. And that is, they've got an ahead. They've got the 341 of Majestic Motorsport. So that's a real great scrap. That's around about 13th as the neon lights starting to show up. And there's such a great differential of, you know, some running with their LEDs, because the second generation of the second facelift introduced in 2012 meant that all C1s came with daytime running lights, which were actually a regulatory requirement thanks to the European Union's automotive standards. But you can see that on a lot of these cars they've also got some twin lights underneath the front headlights, and some definitely on full beam at the minute. So realistically it's great just making sure that with regards to these, this is where we're going to get, you know, we're going to get sunset, I think, probably in around about an hour to an hour and a half's time. So around about 8:30 local time here in the United Kingdom. Obviously, we've got people watching us from as far as Alberta, Canada. Of course, we've got the US. Hopefully, you're watching with us as well. So at the moment, still, the gap now between Eastgate Automotive and Viking has increased by an absolute landslide at the minute to just exactly 6.5 tenths of a second over Viking. AB Motorsport a further 9 tenths adrift, and then a further nigh on a second behind them is PrepTech UK. Silver Lake Racing continuing to complete the... completing the top 5. Akiri Celtic with Clapham North have got past Gala Performance with Amigo Motorsport for 11th position. So still it's... and coming into shot is one of the Stand Up to Cancer cars. So effectively we've still got a lot of racing here to go. 22 hours, 27 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock remaining here. And a big thank you to the Distrigo Parts Distribution C1 Racing Series for bringing this fantastic milestone event here to the home of British motor racing. As the rain's starting to, looks like it might intensify, it looks to be intensifying a little bit on our commentary box window just above the pit lane here on the National Pit Straight at Silverstone, Scott.
And this is the key time now where we get to see all these teams starting to make their first fuel stops. The 481 is in. That's the Flying Haggis team, which has come all the way, another team that's come all the way from Scotland, because Scotland have just launched their own Scottish C1 Cup as well, which predominantly races at Knockhill. As there you can really see on this shot here, the rain starting to fall pretty heavily now here at Silverstone. The track is getting fairly saturated, but these guys will not be lifting up for just a moment. So, of course, the lap times now are roughly about sort of at least 4 seconds slower than they were when it was a completely dry circuit. The 406 here of Misty Racing battling with a team that's been right down the bottom of the order in 423, having some problems down at the tail of the field with a couple of black and orange flags, and then they had a contravention of the refuelling regulation, which means they had to come in and serve another penalty.
Yeah. THL Rhino on YouTube saying, looking forward to popping down tomorrow. Hope the rain clears. Well, you might want to keep an eye on your weather app, but take it with a pinch of salt. Let's be completely honest here. But yeah, at the moment, some other positional changes. Flying Haggis have rejoined 3 laps off the leaders. Currently in 83rd position, as Viking again has swapped the lead with Eastgate Automotive, and the gap between them now 1.3 seconds. Viking did a 3-minute 11.2, with Eastgate Automotive a 3:13.185. That's quite a lot when you think about it.
So the rain continues to fall here at Silverstone as we are now just past the hour-and-a-half mark here at the Distrigo C1 Racing Club 24-hour race on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And the lead gap, as we said, is now 1.3 seconds between Viking number 419 with Nick Grindrod at the wheel and second place man David Drinkwater in the number 318 Eastgate Automotive Racing Team. Still third place for Oliver Allwood in car number 394, followed by Prep Tech UK, who started back in 11th with Matt Turnbull at the wheel. Silver Lake Racing are some way back, but they were in the mix battling it. I was just seeing Team Celavie also in there as well, just down the back straight, and they were battling. I think it was Citroen Racing not too far away from them. Obviously plenty of 3-4 abreast battles, and this is the point of the race here where effectively, if you can find a way through and find a way through the traffic, it means that you can try and make you easy progress up through the order. We've got the 358 car, which is the car which has Jacob Ebury in that team. 358 are some way down the order, I believe, after some earlier problems.
358. Hang on a second. A lot to scroll through here on TSL timing.
Yes, there is. 89th position for the team called Red Knicker. Jack Bridges saying, I drive a C1. Well, if you want to turn it into a race car, it's fairly simple. I think it only costs you roughly around, I think to turn one into a race car, probably about just at least less than £3,000 to convert one, I think.
Someone's just said who's getting in the car next. That's Callum Cripps with ASR, the 390. That's along with Alex Sedgwick. And at the moment, ASR currently 6th position at the moment, 28.3 seconds off the leaders. And Callum is a very dab hand. He came up as the commentary box for the 24 Hours at Rockingham last May, and very good, very interesting to see. He's also racing in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, if memory serves me correctly, with the likes of Ant Wharton-Eels, Sean Hollenby from AMD Tunings in that.
And also one of his teammates, Alex Sedgwick, who I believe is actually leading the standings in the first rounds, I believe. So Alex Sedgwick doing a fantastic... I think he's leading his respective class, because there's different classes in the NASCAR Whelen. Yes, so I believe it's one of the classes that he's in. I believe Alex Sedgwick is leading the way, so good to see Alex is getting himself up through the order.
Well, funnily enough, the actual commentator for that series is racing here as well, Mark Werrell.
Yes, indeed, yes. Yeah,
so
he's in the...
We've got a plethora of NASCAR Euro Wheeling people here, not just racing drivers, but also official personnel. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Now, Eastgate Automotive have dropped to third in the standings, third in the overall running of order, behind the 394 of AB Motorsport, who are now just under 3.3 seconds adrift of Viking, who are starting to pull out a little bit of a lead here, as we're coming to within 20 minutes of completing the first 2 hours. That's the 12th of this race, as the wipers definitely on again, Scott, as the rain's starting to continue to not, I wouldn't say beat down, but it's a consistent shower, isn't it?
It's a consistent drizzle is what it is on the circuit, to keep it a little bit slick, but so it's not bone dry conditions, but it's certainly not full of wet conditions, and that can be one of the most trickiest things for a driver, because usually when you, in terms of weather conditions, you want it either one of two ways. You want it either fully wet or fully dry, because you know how to set the car up for the respective conditions. When it comes to intermediate conditions, it becomes a nightmare, because you can never tell just exactly how much moisture is on the track, how much it's drying out, how much wetter it's getting, depending on if there's any rain showers or not. So because of that, you've then got to try and find a balance between a setup that works in the dry but also in the wet, obviously. So you've got to try and find a good balance in the car, and there are only certain drivers that can work well. I think Jenson Button's a good example, where he's someone who's very good at the sort of what they call intermediate conditions, where he's got very fine, smooth car control and a very smooth driving style to be able to pick his way through around the circuit without getting too caught up and making too many mistakes. But usually when it comes to setting a car up, easily you want it either to one or two extremes, either fully dry or fully wet, because you know exactly what you need to do. When it comes to making a compromise in the middle, depending on how wet or how dry it is either way, that can be very tricky.
Very, very true. He's racing in Super GT now as the defending champion in Team Kunimitsu in the Honda NSX GT. So good luck to JB this year. Of course, he's very much, I mean, if anyone remembers the Canadian Grand Prix where he was racing alongside former teammate Lewis Hamilton, as the 330 is now in the pits. So they looks like they jacked up the left front corner of that. So whether there's an issue, maybe with suspension or anti-roll bar, very much an interesting proposition here for the 330. They are currently sitting in. That's DHD Motorsport 74th in the running order of things. But yeah, Jenson Button, very much a man that was very easy to find that sort of like happy medium between wet and dry, and that was very true when he famously went off at Albert Park and went on to win the race, because he was the first one that went, I'm going to go on slicks, nearly binned it, and then went, oh, here we go. So the 330 of DHD now on their way back, waiting to be given the green light at the end of the pit lane here at the National Pit Straight, which they get now. So they'll rejoin probably in around sort of the from 80th onwards. Another team that is currently in the pits, the 493 of MKN Scuderia CO. Well, it looks like Coloni, but it's got a 1 in the middle.
Yeah.
Currently 64th at the minute. They're now in the pits. So DHD will probably be just in front of, well, they've just been passed by Welsh Motorsport as a result of coming into the pits. They could end up being in the bottom 19 at the moment. Majestic Motorsport, the 421, still in the pits, 23 laps off the leaders. We have had no confirmed retirements, but more refueling. The 392 currently in the pits looks to be one of the 49. I can't really make out who that is. Great little battle. Now this is the Team Merlin International team, the all-women crew, battling away with the 317 of Team Tivoli. That's for 21st, and just behind them, Scuderia Sundial. So a three-way scrap at the moment for 21st. So good job there from the Team Merlin International. I have to give a bit of a shout out to one of their motorsport women alumni, Isla Monday, who's currently a Bambino karting this year at Rye House. So thank you for watching, Isla. They're still, they're still doing very, very well indeed. Are the 480. Still about 3 positions off where they qualified, which would have been 18th before the demotion of the pole sitter.
So this battle in terms of drivers, we've got Katie Milner, of course, former junior saloon car champion and current Ginetta GT5 challenge racer in the lead of that group. We've got some more activity with the marshals down there on post. Fantastic orange army. Thanks to all the marshals who are braving the cold and the rain and the wind here at Silverstone. Of course, our hardy British marshals who do a fantastic job. They are the best in the world, and they're so highly trained to such a high standard. Of course, it's very simple and very easy to get involved as a marshal. Of course, you can head to the British Motorsport Marshal Club, of which there's a couple of drivers here who are ambassadors, one of which is Mark Werrell, of course, and they're amongst others. But it's fantastic to see so many marshals here this weekend helping make this race weekend happen, because quite simply without marshals, genuinely race weekends like this just cannot happen, because they're all volunteers.
We've got one car being pushed. That is the 480. Oh, well, 483. 483.
That's Team Crossacre. That's the Watts. That's Adrian, Joseph, and Jack Watt in that car. Now 483. Where were they running at the moment? They were
483. Well, they dropped from 6. Yeah, from 65th position. Well, it's going to be below the. It's going to be in the bottom 15 by the time. Well, it'll be right stone dead last basically if they get pulled off the track, and then 323. Someone's just Jack Holden Rhodes has just asked what position are they in at the moment.
Pit stop for the 351 in the pit lane now. So 351.
That's the GMP's development stand up to cancer, currently running in. That is 36th position.
And that's got quite a driver lineup in that. It's got Savi Clark, also Marino Franchitti, who of course is the sibling of Dario Franchitti, of course.
Who's currently in Rome.
Yes, no, Paris.
Paris, sorry. Rome was last time, sorry.
Howden Haynes, of course, from Audi, of course, who you know very well.
Yes, famously called the best strategy, I think, when Tom Christensen was the other end of Lasarth and said, no, slicks will be fine. And Howden basically said words to this effect, no Tom, it's absolutely tipping it down. They put him on inters and they won the race. And that was with Tom Christensen, Alan McNish and Dindo Capello. And that was McNish's second win at Le Sarthe.
They're also sharing that car with Michael Neuhoff, Phil Quaife and Dave Ward at the wheel of that. So a driver change going on for the 351. We've got Jack Holder Rhodes asking, what position is car 323? Car 323 is steady 23 with Mashi Simonite, former Clio and MX5 racer.
59th position at the moment, my friend.
Yep, and they're sharing that car with James Mounsell, Robert Tilley and Neil Holden. So we've got another board going out for... hold on. We've got I'm trying to figure out the number on the board. It's a 4-8. So it's, in terms of the driver who it is, it's 4-8. It just says 4-8. So it's either going to be... The car's still running. It's either 480... 481 or 488. So it's either the Team Merlin International car, it's either the Flying Haggis racing car, or it's the Roll Centre racing car, which has Martin Short, as in that Martin Short, with Morgan Short, Tina Cooper, Ian Stinton, and Graham Coombs at the wheel. Paul Garner says, come on, Alex Sedgwick.
We've had Pono 800008. Who's got a Stig? Just shove him in terrestrials, let him go for 22 hours.
Yeah, pretty much.
That wouldn't really... I think in that sort of respect, I would heartily disagree, because I think at the end of the day, with the amount of people that we've got here, it's quite an eclectic mix, wouldn't you agree, Scott?
We do indeed. I'm just seeing that the board's going out. I presume it must be for some kind of a penalty for 2 cars, but again, the board's facing away from us from where we are in the commentary box. We're looking across directly out of the window onto the pit wall to watch the marshals take a look, but we can't exactly see exactly what the pit board is showing us. So once they bring it back in, they might hopefully be able to get a glimpse of which driver it is.
Well, I'll keep an eye on the race control messages, which we had nothing come through at the moment. 22 hours, 13 minutes and 45 seconds at the moment. Anyone know what's up with Area Motorsport? Well, at the moment, Drift and Drive, we have no update. They'll probably be recovered into the pit lane, or probably will be in the pit lane as we speak.
And also, I've sort of just seen what might have been the American car, which is the C1 USA car, or another one of the yellow cars out there, but it had no windscreen, I'm pretty sure.
That's a bit risky.
I just saw a car coming into Maggotts and Beckett's, and it looks as though it had no windscreen. So unless I'm seeing things, and it was the glass was that clear, but I don't think it was. So
unless it's a Perspex one rather than glass.
Yeah, but you still get a reflection from it, though, wouldn't you? Really?
You would do.
So
you would do. But whoever's behind the wheel of that car, if there is no windscreen in it, you are one very brave individual.
Just thanks to an update from SHXRT77RLH. Tina Cooper has to pull out of the event due to an injury. Thanks for the update on that one. So the interest we've got is purely going by the...
There is no windscreen.
There we go.
That's the 416.
416. So 416 that's had the problem.
And it's got no rear windscreen either. There is complete...
And that is the C1 USA car that we saw. So obviously whatever's happened to it when we first saw it, it was away from the cameras. Whatever's happened to it, it's obviously had an accident which has warranted it to lose its front and rear windscreen. So I reckon that car's going to be a bit chilly for the next 22 hours.
You're not kidding there, Scott. You're not kidding there at all. Stefan Gottwald says which car is leading. It is still Viking in the 419 by just over 0.3 of a second from AB Motorsport. Eastgate Automotive, well, AB Motorsport seems to be the quickest of the top 3 at the moment. A 3:06.199 on the last tour. So the C1 USA in the 416, currently sitting in 98th position. That's really going to be interesting to see. Yes, weight saving, boys, says Fatty on YouTube. That's actually right. So we might be having. Now the thing is that we've had a few pit stops, so the marshalling team and also race control will be having a clean eye on what's been going on. It also looks like they've taped up the right rear quarter window on the 416, so whoever is behind the wheel of the C1 USA car is definitely going to need a very hot heated water blanket when they get in to the pits. So the air temperature at the moment here at Silverstone is very much a very balmy, well, I'd say probably more like very cold temperature. It's 9 degrees, so we've gone under double digits here. So whoever's behind the wheel of the 416, oh, kudos to you. So the wind's going to be buffeting through the front and rear windscreen. The 416, which now comes around the final corner here at Silverstone, heading onto the straightaway as the 373 tries to go past. So checkered class in the 423 now up into 91st place, having got past Quattro Formaggio in the 392. Esports and Stars now up into 94th place, currently running 7 laps off the leaders. Other positional changes at the moment. No real movement in the top 40 as Team Rockingham are now in the pits, pitting from 43rd position, well, 41st. Oh, looks like we've got slippery surface being shown at one of the corners here. So the Team Rockingham 448 comes into the pits. And you can see that some of these cars, well, they've got some, they've put some LEDs on the top of that roof, and you can see that the rain is definitely hitting the front windscreens, with these top speeds of these vehicles being around about 98 miles an hour. 0 to 60 in these cars is around 14.3. That's per the claimed figures in the brochure that you will see in a Citroen dealership nowadays. But Viking still continues to lead as the wipers still continue to wipe on the windscreens, front and rear. Unfortunately not for Team USA, which looks like the car might have actually rolled, which might have prompted the front and the rear windshield and also the offside rear quarter window to be, well, the front and the rear windshield not to be there as they come across the start-finish line to complete another lap. We're now on to lap number 36 here, and we're fast approaching the final 8.5 minutes of the second hour of the Distrigo Parts Distribution C1 Racing Club 24 hours here at Silverstone, as the 448 of Team Rockingham currently getting refueled. And Duckworks saying, I have friends that race the VW Golf without a windshield or hatch once, without doing anything else, just adding glass and the hatchback. Crazy drag without those windows in. I think it's going to be very cold for the driver of 416 as well, as there's some great battling here with one of the stand-up to cancer cars. That looks to be the 387 that's in there as well, as there's a lot of battling going through these pit stop phases. You're going to see that positional changes will spice up the action here, as these drivers are definitely going. They're definitely going, and I have to give full respect to everyone that wants to get themselves into a Citroen C1 and race around the full GP loop here at Silverstone, as the Team Rockingham car of the 448 continues to remain in the pits under the refueling stages. So at the moment we've got, well, a few more changes as well. Quattro Formaggio drops 2 places to 94th. Behind Avantec Endurance Racing in the 312 and the 306 of Esports and Stars. As we've got the 420 there. Definitely having a good battle with, looks to be ITC. That's the 325. Well, that is not for position. So 420 must be a back marker, as the ITC is about 16.5 seconds behind the car that is currently occupying 10th position. Kraken Motorsport in the 411. Rhett 11 on YouTube. Yeah, I definitely agree. Lightning McQueen has had one heck of a downgrade. And have they got Luigi in the pits going, pit stop? You know, I mean, it had to be done. I'm sorry. But yeah, Lightning McQueen is racing. Yes, and it's Rusty's Racing is the official team name. 344 as the 390 of ASR now comes in. Here comes Callum Cripps. This is going to be a driver change and possibly a fuel stop. So Alex Sedgwick into the pits. Having the four-ways on there. So they just, I think, belts and braces being done up on the Team Rockingham car there, Scott. But Callum Cripps said, Well, I'm in the car next.
And also that was the 421 having a pit stop as well. So that's the 421, which was 421 if we look on our entry list. So that was Majestic Motorsports. That was the Ross Lapwood, David Whitehouse, Mark Cox, Conor Linnett and Chris Woodgate machine that was in also for a scheduled stop by the looks of things. And I think immediately the Rockingham cars go out straight into traffic. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how he gets on with that as the pit stop goes on. You can see it's got backing from Simply Race, which I know that Callum Cripps frequents. Of course, I think there's a like a stock car championship which is going on over there, which bears Callum Cripps' name.
Which I think he's somewhat sort of inspired.
Absolutely.
And in the meantime, 448 Team Rockingham rejoins, 2 laps down off the leaders in 61st position.
And there is Callum Cripps waiting on the right there. On the left, you can see there's Alex Sedgwick, who's just jumped out of the car. So on the right shot you just saw there was Callum Cripps. They're coming towards the camera. That is the car which qualified in the times on pole position yesterday. That was Mac Attack Racing.
And I can tell you now, Scott, they are not in the bottom 20 anymore. Doesn't look like it. Well, let's just have a look. 347 is... Let's just have a look here.
Thumbs up from Callum just whilst he's waiting to get in, so he's obviously enjoying himself.
He's chomping at the bit, he is. He always does when he tries to get behind the wheel of a car. Mac Attack Racing, 99th to 69th position.
Yep, and they're only 2 laps off the lead, so...
Well, I think we both know that anything can happen, especially as we're fast approaching the last 4 or so minutes before we complete 22 hours to go on the clock and 2 hours completed here at Silverstone. The 379 getting in an absolute scrap here with the 366. I'm just trying to find out who... Right, 379. That's ELK Ciobra Motorsport battling with Welsh Motorsport over 71st position. And we've just got coming into shot. 374 is battling with the Pink Tiger Brigade. That is Midway Motorsport and Pink Tiger battling over 41st position.
Just a message from Gemma Mine, so we've got some more battling going into the left hand there at Brooklands. One car actually going a little slower than it should be.
That's the 378.
So 378, is that the car with Strife or just...
Young at heart.
So possibly just has one of its drivers at the wheel, just trying to get to grips with the whole situation of being in the C1. It's sped up a little bit now, just getting, I think, out of the way of some of the faster cars a little higher up in the order.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting as the 431 is coming into the pits. As you can see, there's a little bit of neon or LEDs. I've seen one with bright purple, bright magenta on the front grille.
That car that was stopping then, that was the Melchi Motorsports team. That was Ronald Johnson, Steve Jones, Graham Churchill and Piers Johnson.
As the 470 now looks like Callum is being belted in, braces and all, by Alex Sedgwick.
Just a comment from Sponge 3010 says, why Jimmy he says Broadband, not Broadbend. Oh, we've got a car stopped on the infield on the run towards Stowe.
Right.
Now then, if we can get a zoom on that, who is it? It is 383 by the looks of things. And 383 is Rusty Nail Racing. So Rusty Nail Racing with Nick Jarvis, Chris Hart, Robert Jarvis and Ray Grimes. As Callum Cripps now leaves the pit lane. Now what they have to do here, you have to watch very carefully. They'll stop here at the red light. And then what they'll do is they have a bit of a transponder on their wrist, which they hold up to a panel, which then turns a light green once the signal has gone through correctly, and that basically signals back to race control which driver's at the wheel of which car when they go out there at any one time. So unfortunately, on our timing screens in front of us is not information that we currently have, but it is information that is available as and when it comes up. And was up there in qualifying too. So it looks as though, I'm afraid, that the Rusty Nail Racing team are having some problems. In the pit lane also we've got the 375. That's performance preparation with Jonathan Simmons, Gary Carpenter and Alan Marion.
Currently sitting in 75th position.
I think we possibly... I thought we were going to have some news from down the pit lane just hearing in our ears, but we will wait and see if he has anything. But yeah, Sponge 310 was just saying... I think he meant Jimmy Broadbent, but so why Jimmy Broadbent? He said it means Jimmy Broadbent. Why Jimmy Broadbent Super GT not participating in this will be a perfect entry-level type of race with lots of track, and that's exactly what it is. There's lots of go here. There's a little bit of rubbing there between the 380, the Gala Performance Car, and the 331 of Bianca Water Developments as they go side by side through Copse Corner.
That is for 13th position. So we've just had someone asking about Flying Haggis Racing, currently 84th position at the minute. So we're fast approaching the completion of the first 2 hours of the Distrigo Parts Distribution C1 Racing Club 24 hours here at Silverstone, the home of British Motor Racing, celebrating Citroen's 100th anniversary here, and to be, I think, if not the biggest grid globally, we've trumped the UK record. Apparently we've trumped what the Nordschleife does with the 24 hours, which is quite, well, it's the biggest ever single make grid. That's an impressive statistic. And what would have made this even more special, Scott? We had the 100 cars. If we had the 100 cars, it would have... But to be honest with you, 99